So Danqian Ming Men. It's a quiet place for the mind to settle. Quite a contrast to the head, which is a noisy place generally. In Tai Chi, we're training the body, but we're training the body to develop the mind correctly. And the aspect of mind that we're interested in is what they call consciousness or awareness. If you're in your head thinking to yourself, then you're basically unconscious to the world around you. That's really low-grade mind. So we bring our mind down to here, which is quiet and relatively stable, from which our awareness, our consciousness can venture out. And in particular, we want to be conscious of our body in a way that we're not generally. Aware of its structure, its working, its flows, and aware of your own mind as a generator of mood or feeling. So feel the part of the spine dropping down from here. So the bottom vertebra, then the sacrum, and then the tail. And then feel the spine coming up from this place. So there's a stack of vertebra, like a stack of bricks, rising up into the neck, and finally your big skull sitting on top. So what we want to appreciate is that when we bring our awareness to something, we change it. This is what they're found in quantum physics, isn't it? The mind of the experimenter affects the outcome of the experiment. I want to feel, you can feel it especially with your own body, and if I bring my attention to a part of my body, it's like I sort of surround it with energy. So awareness is energy, it's a type of energy. So if I can be aware of each of those vertebrae as they're coming up, it's like I cushion each one with a few layers of energy, and then they can just really wake up. It's like you need to bring your awareness to something to give it permission to be itself. This is the power of our awareness. So that's what we're trying to develop. So the worst thing is a mind that is habitual, a mind that is just going through the motions and isn't really awake to the situation that it's in. And now to do this breathing exercise, but from the legs. So we're just trying to get the legs to do everything. So rather than just flexing my spine backwards and forwards and doing this with my hands, I want to use my legs to draw my lower spine down into them. So it feels that I'm leaning backwards because I'm angling my sacrum down towards my knees. And so my head has to come forward, otherwise I'd fall over backwards. And then I just straighten up and something happens in the arms, but that's not really important. It's more allowing my legs to breathe my body. I want to try and keep my awareness in the part of my spine beneath my Ming Men. So this is coming down into my hamstrings. Try and feel the tail. It's my tail being pulled down into my legs. The arms are very much secondary. I have to get the action in the legs, pulling my tail into them, and then the arms come in. Okay. That should really get to the legs in a way that nothing else we've ever done does. And now just bring your attention, your awareness to the two arms. Feel that point on the spine between the two shoulder blades. So that's the point from where the arms come. The arms don't start at the shoulders. The shoulder blade is part of my arm, the same way that my hip bone is part of my leg. So from my spine, I have this circle, with my spine being the back of the circle. And now let's just work the arms. So reaching forwards and then pulling in. So now I can feel that reach coming from my spine rather than simply my shoulder. So I'm extending from the back. It's not just my arm that's straightening. I'm extending and then I'm pulling. So if you were pulling something real, you know, in a tug of war, or you're pulling like a boat in at the canal, then you'd get it right. You'd have to use your whole body, not just your upper arm and lower arm and hand. So I want to feel this coming from my spine, and then I pull. And when you pulled, you would very much pull down into your legs, and you'd have to lean back a little bit so that the effort of the pull didn't actually pull you forwards. So I'd have to angle back so that the effort of the pull actually channels down into my feet. I'm extending from my spine, and then I'm pulling, and I'm pulling down into the same leg. I'm really bringing that rope through and anchoring it in the ground here. And that enables the other side to reach forwards. I want to feel the shoulder blade. So the hand goes out, it's all nice and sort of polite, and then something has to happen here to get my shoulder blade into it. The shoulder blade sort of comes in at the very end. It's a little bit of extra effort to get more extension and to really physically lock you into the exercise. And imagine it's hard work. So if it was hard work, you'd really yell as you pulled, sort of heave. You get more enthusiasm in the pull, really. So something here in me really opens up so that I can take an extra big bite when I start to pull. Okay, then back to riding horse. Then just feel the legs are just so difficult because normally they're sort of holding us up and complaining about the pain. So they're basically being used as like slaves, like workhorses. We want to feel that part of them that is really trying to bend all the time and just get me down. So my legs are trying to do this, and I'm actually having to hold them back. Just feel the spine. It's a stack of bones on top of my sacrum. My sacrum is this miraculous point where the torso splits into the two legs. So this flow of weight that comes down the spine bifurcates at the sacrum. So we need to keep the sacrum relaxed. So, but what we mean by that is just allow that split to happen. If the legs are hurting and they're pushing up, then I'll squeeze this too much and the energy won't be able to flow down. It'll just be a forceful situation of forces in equilibrium. I want to feel the flow down because unless I have a flow down, there'll be no flow up. It's the flow up that I'm really interested in. So you can feel it, bring your awareness to the bones, to the spine, splitting through the sacrum into the hip bones, from the hip bones into the thighs, into the shins, down into the feet. Or you can feel it as the blood flowing down from the heart and splitting at the dantian into the two iliac arteries, into the two arteries that feed the legs. So let's just try that earth exercise and just feel it. Feel it as a flow. So you can either concentrate on the skeleton, splitting. And remember, when we split, we sort of wriggle a little bit to allow the energy to become two. You know, if you see like a film of cell division, you know, it's just got this cell, and then you see there's some activity inside it, and then all of a sudden it just sort of does a little shudder, and then it pops, it's two. So it's a bit like that. I'm coming down my spine, and then here, ooh, something has to happen. I have to shudder to get it to split into the two legs, and then it just comes up back into the heart, and then down again. I down, and ooh, something shakes up, back up the legs, up the vein, into the heart, and down. Okay, good. So mind back to here, feeling the release across the sacrum, allowing the weight to flow down into the two legs. And now just using the legs to turn. So straightening one leg, it becomes a back leg, so it turns me towards this corner. And then bending that leg, it'll bring me back to the front, and then I straighten the other leg to take me to the other corner, and then I bend that leg. Now, what we'd like to do when we do these straightening and bending exercises is to get these straight as possible. So to straighten the leg, I have to tighten my quad, and I have to allow my hamstring to be stretched. So it's something that never normally happens in Tai Chi because our legs are bent all the time. So as we get older, our balance tends to get worse, deteriorates, and so does our range. So we have to work to keep them both in good conditions. So here, just really straightening this leg and then letting it bend. What I want to feel, what I want to become aware of, is how the straightening and the bending of the leg affects the heart. So when I really straighten this leg, it pushes my thymus up. So my thymus becomes active. And then when I bend the leg, it sucks me down into the lower heart. So up into the upper heart, the thymus, and then down into the lower heart, eros. So there's movement inside your chest as you do this exercise. Turning away from the middle brings my aggression up, if you like, my upper heart. And coming back to the middle, it's got this yielding, embracing, cuddling softness. Upper heart, lower heart. Upper heart, lower heart. When the thymus becomes active, you just become really sort of fierce, like you're ready for a fight. And when the lower heart becomes active, you're just much more receptive. You're wanting to pull things in and hug things and cuddle things all the time. This is very much coming out. And then as I bend the leg, it's very much drawing in here, down Jian. So straightening rears me up, bending pulls me back down. So the straightening is very important because it's what gives you this feeling of almost bursting out of yourself, almost like something is going to break out of the shell of your body. Here, this is really extreme. And then it can soften and pull back. So if you can't straighten the leg in this way, then you won't be able to bend it enough either. So you won't be able to sink enough. So we have to work on extending our range. As I practice, my leg can get straighter and it can also get more bent. So when I see my students and we're doing like a sinking exercise, like the one that we did to begin with, and I just say to them, why aren't you going any deeper? And they say, I can't. I said, you can. Your mind is putting up blocks. You're afraid. So the straightening just brings up the courage so that when it's time to bend, you're brave enough. So they very much belong together. So without the excess of yang, there cannot be excess of yin. Okay, and now back. And now let's try the same thing, but just using the one leg. So I use my right leg here to turn me to this side. And then I bend the right leg to bring me back to the front. And then I straighten that leg again, but now it's a front leg. And then I bend, and then I straighten. My right leg is moving me, is responsible for the turns, and my left leg is simply supporting this. Straight, heart coming up, bend, straight. This really gets down, right down into the deep heart. So you need to lean forwards a little bit when you activate the straightening of the front leg. This is almost like you're leaning backwards here. And then when I straighten my front leg, I'm very much leaning forwards into it. And now let's have one foot forwards. Now just going backwards and forwards in bow and arrow, but using that same idea. So I straighten my back leg, and that will bring me into the front leg and bring my hips round. And then I bend the back leg, and that pulls me round a little bit. And then as I sink into the back leg, I use my front leg to push my right hip back. And then pulling and straightening the leg, bending the leg, straightening the front leg, bending the front leg, straightening the back leg, bending the back leg, straightening the front leg. Feel the hip that is being positioned by the straightening leg. So as I straighten this leg, it's really turning me in this direction. It's turning me towards it. And then the bending turns me away from it. And then the straightening of the back leg turns me towards the front leg. Okay, now let's try with the other foot forwards. I'll try it this way so you can just see how much leaning tends to come into it. So I bend the front leg, straighten my back leg. The more straight I get it, the more my upper back curves backwards and my thymus lifts. And then I bend the back leg. And then here I really straighten the front leg. And then I bend the front leg. And then I straighten the back leg. I'm really trying to straighten this leg. The knee almost has to bend backwards. That's the feeling, hyperextension. It's easy with the front leg relatively, but it's difficult with the back leg when you straighten the back leg. So yeah, well, the feeling that my knee is pulling backwards. You should feel like Young Cheng Fu, you know, those dramatic postures he used to get into when he was young. So push is very much here, leaning forwards. And then like lifting hands was very much this, wasn't it? The leg has to be raring to straighten, but it also means that the other leg has to be willing to accept me. And then just bring the mind to the forceful aspect. So my leg straightens, pushing the ground so that this hip can move round. And the same thing here, I push the ground to drive my left hip backwards. I straighten the leg to drive the right hip forwards. That's force. And then bring your mind to the energetic aspect. For that, you feel the foot not so much pushing the ground in order to get a movement, but of injecting into the ground like a hypodermic needle comes out of your heel and extends into the ground, which allows some sort of transfer of energy. In one sense, I'm pushing the hard ground. In another sense, I'm injecting into it. Okay. Forcefully, my legs are a simple support for my torso, but energetically, the feet are bleeding in and out of the ground all the time, which is tending to pull me down into them. So if I've got this branching connection with the earth, then I can consider this connection with the heavens. So let's try this circuit now, the heaven one. Down into the heart, and then the heart branches down each arm. And again, to get it to branch, you need to wriggle a little bit. Something needs to happen. Ooh. All the time I'm sinking. It's still coming from the legs, but it's the energy from the legs, not from the rising of the legs, not from the forceful aspect of the use of my legs. So if I can bleed into the ground, then something will surge up and feed this exercise. The thymus reaching up and eros, deep heart, pulling down. Full of feeling, full of awareness. Full of quality mind. Full of energy. For that, I have to maintain my sinking. I don't have to, but I can just sort of keep it going, and it's stronger if I can get the energy coming from the ground rather than from me. And then just turn more and get it to be this one where we open to the side. So it's got a little bit lighter, but it's the same thing. I open my heart. It's almost like an arm comes out of my chest to grab something. So turning back to the front does the grabbing and the retracting. This extends the arm out. This brings it back in. Trying to get as much action in the heart as possible. Thymus, coming back into the deep heart, the mothering heart. This is the aggressive male heart. This is the soft, enveloping female heart. I need to be able to move between them with real agility. Straightening the leg, bending the leg, straightening the other leg. Want to feel it always coming from the alternation of the legs. So in other words, from the turning. And then just diminish it into waving hands in the clouds. So very soft, but all of that is in there. It's just subtle. This is the upper heart, and then sinking into the lower heart. And so here I'm just doing the figure of 8 exercise around the hips or the feet, but I'm feeling it in the heart. Nothing mechanical. And feel the awareness. The awareness is like a charge of energy that you bring to whatever it is you're bringing your awareness onto. And then back to riding horse, back to the Dan Shen, the Ming Men, the sacrum. Feel the awareness. So when you wake up, then it's like you allow air into the system, and all of the bones are sort of separated a little bit. There's a sort of buoyant airiness inside you, especially between the bones of the vertebrae. So I have a student, and she's very tense. And sometimes, we're standing in front of each other like this, and she's like this, the shoulders up by her ears. And I just say, relax your shoulders. And then she gets into a panic because she thinks that she doesn't know how to relax, and she thinks she's not going to be able to do it, and that I'm going to get cross and all this shit. So what I do, I just reach across and just place my hands gently on her shoulders, and then all of a sudden, ooh, she relaxes, and she's convinced that it's my energy that has made her relax. But I say to her, no, it's not. It's all I've done is brought your awareness to this place with my touch, and it's your awareness that's allowed the thing to relax. So this is what we have to appreciate that, just the power of our mind. And it's all based on trust. Like she says, you're the only person that can relax me because you're the only person I trust. She's got a lover, but of course, the only thing he wants is sex. So she doesn't really trust him. She enjoys it, but with me, because she knows I'm a therapist basically, so ethically sound. So she can just let herself go and just let me just put my hand pretty much anywhere. And it's amazing because I just put my hand here and all of a sudden, oh, there's like a burst of not just relaxation, not just letting go, but something comes to the place of her mind. There's a quality of the mind that comes to the place that I touch. And this is the power of touch. John always used to say, without touch, without the other touching you, you've got no chance. Let's just do something very simple, just getting the figure of eight going around the feet and using it to step. Feel that point of contact, that moment where you make this touching with the ground. So your touch brings a burst of energy, of aware energy into the earth beneath your foot, but it also brings an awareness into your own foot because as well as you touching the ground has touched you. So there's a real explosion in the foot as you make contact with the ground. Just want to be aware of that. And then swapping the feet around. I want to put this foot down so gently that it sucks something from the ground as you bring your weight into it. And then lifting the foot, sinking down into the outside edge, cutting under, and letting this foot come up. Outside edge, cuts under, and this foot can then come up. Here we have both hearts. The leg that goes down to support me is the container. That's the hug. This leg is rounding out, hugging the whole of me. And then I can allow the thymus to spark upwards, and that's what lifts the knee. The more you pull the knee up, the more you can actually sink down into the supporting leg. Now let's just try a bit of this one. Here I'm feeling the figure of 8 inside each foot. This alternating figure of 8. And when you get into it, when you sink into it, then you feel like a little figure of 8 exercise going on in the heart. And you can feel it in all of the centers, that it's obvious in the heart, especially since we've been working the heart quite vigorously. So the correct awareness is all about heart. And then just bring a little bit of your awareness to the heel as it goes down. We want this sense of the heel extending backwards before it cuts under. So the opposable thumb of the heel. My heel goes back and then cuts down. And in order to get that action in the heel, I need to be able to swing my tail. So on one level, we're trying to pull the tail down into the hamstrings. But then once we've got that, then the next level is then getting the tail really fluid and wagging around. So my tail can extend back, and then my tail cuts under as I bring the heel down and sink the weight into it. So there's no end to the detail that we need to become aware of. So the system should always be developing, moving, changing, shifting. And then just bring the feet back. But you've still got this trace going on inside the feet, which means there's alternation going, which means they'll always be turning. So my waist is always trying to wriggle one way then the other. And that's just bringing this sort of writhing activity into the feet. And then if I get the contact with the ground pretty much flat and stationary, then that writhing is then inside the foot rather than in the contact with the ground. And I want it to feel it's particularly here. I want everything that's happening to register in the heart, because ultimately I want it to come from there.